Hola, hola, callegistes! El passat 23 de maig, l'editorial Navona va convidar un grup de bookstagrammers i booktubers a reunir-nos a la llibreria Ona amb l'escriptora americana Kerry Maher, autora del fenomen internacional La llibretera de París. Està inspirada en la vida de Sylvia Beach, la llibretera fundadora de la mítica Shakespeare & Company de París i editora de l'escriptor James Joyce quan mig món va censurar la seva novel·la Ulisses. La Mariona del canal Mayon Book i jo vam poder entrevistar a la Kerry en privat uns minuts abans de la trobada i heus aquí al final de la nostra conversa. No us perdeu la primera part de l'entrevista al canal de la Mariona.
I think it's really cool that you talk about their relationship as lovers because we've heard about Gertrude.
Right, Gertrude and Alice, right?
Yeah, but never too much about Sylvia and Adrienne.
Yes.
So I think that's really a good point.
And as you said, I think Adrienne was a great inspiration for many bookshops to come. So
Oh yes, yes. Well, at this lunch today, several of the booksellers said, Sylvia was my inspiration, and some of the booksellers that I met in the United States, as publishing the book, they also said to me, Sylvia was my inspiration for opening the store. So it's just been wonderful to connect to these booksellers, in that way. It's also interesting, Sylvia was as much a librarian as she was a bookseller. Because so many of the writers who came to Shakespeare & Company were broke, they couldn't afford to buy books. So she had most of the store, I don't actually know what the ratio was, at least half the store was a library. So for a modest subscription, you could pay an annual fee and check out as many books as you wanted. And so we're on the internet, so I'm going to give this a plug. Princeton University, to whom she left all of her personal papers, has digitized all of her library cards.
Oh, that's so true. Yeah, you mentioned it at
It's
the end of the book.
It's in my author's notes, so you can go and look up what did Ernest Hemingway check out of her library in 1926?
That's so cool.
And it lists everything. Plus, they've taken a photograph of the library card in her handwriting.
Oh, wow.
So you see that too. So it's a remarkable resource for people who don't want to leave this world when they're done reading the book.
I would also like to know, where do you find these books? In which bookshops? Do you bought Sylvia Beach diary or memoirs?
I can't remember the name of it. I went to UC Berkeley. It was maybe Moe's Books I know it was on Telegraph Avenue in Berkeley, but it was a long time ago, so a lot of those bookstores aren't there anymore. It's very sad. What's happened to all of those bookstores. But you can her memoir is widely available now. You can order it from any independent bookstore.
Well, I imagine you like all books, so you
I do.
read more books than these memoirs.
I do.
So where do you go?
So my local independent bookstore is called Wellesley Books, and they have hosted me for all of the novels that have been published. And I also listen to audiobooks. And are audiobooks very popular in
Well, we
here?
have them, but they are not that popular like in the States.
All right. So I do. So there's a service called Libro FM that enables me to purchase my audiobooks through my independent bookstore instead of through Amazon, which is a nice thing to be able to do. And whenever I travel, I always try to buy a book for myself or a book for my daughter at whatever bookstore that I'm at. I can't wait to buy something from. That's a beautiful children's room.
And do you like buying books in Paris? Because Mariona loves Paris, so I know you like
in
to go to
Paris?
the actual Shakespeare & Co.
Oh, I did. I was just there. This weekend, and they have both the United States edition and the United Kingdom edition, and I got to sign a big stack of them while I was there. So I was really just such an honor and kind of a dream come true to get to do that.
And what do you believe Sylvia would think of this new Shakespeare & Co.?
Well, her Shakespeare & Company had to close in 1941 because of the war. The current Shakespeare & Company opened in 1951 under a different name called Le Mistral, and it was owned by this American man named George Whitman, and she was a regular at his store. So until the end, she lived out her days in Paris. and she was a regular at his store. And she died in the early 60s, and then in 1964, he renamed, on the 400th anniversary of Shakespeare's birth, he renamed the store Shakespeare and Company. And it was very much, a tribute to Shakespeare, but also a tribute to Sylvia's original Shakespeare and Company.
You actually mentioned at the end of the book that George Whitman's daughter
Yes.
is called Sylvia.
She is called Sylvia, and she runs the store. I met her this weekend. She is lovely.
I didn't know that. I was living in Paris for a year, and I went to Shakespeare and Company, and I thought that was the second bookshop of Sylvia.
Yep.
And then when I bought the book, I was like, oh no.
I think,
so fast.
I'm not sure I understood the relationship between the current store and the original store really until I started doing the research. The current Shakespeare and Company tries to make it as clear as they can inside the store, but you really have to read the plaques on the wall or pick up one of their nonfiction books. They actually have a graphic novel that illustrates kind of the original, that tells the story of the original store and then their
I knew
store.
about Odeon, but I didn't know about the other street. The first
Oh,
one
the
where she was.
Dupuytren, yes. No,
Because
hardly anyone knows that.
I went to Odeon to check where was the original bookshop.
Yeah, that's
and
nothing.
it's empty. There's
yes,
nothing. Yeah.
there's nothing there. I know, which I think is sort of appropriate because of the way it had to close in 1941 under threat of the Nazis closing the store. She and her friends just completely boarded it up in a period of hours. So I think it's sort of there's something poetic about there being nothing at all there now.
Yeah. And last but not least,
Yes.
what do you think Sylvia would say about this bookshop, about Ona?
Oh, I think she would wander around and saying, there are so many books. That was something I actually forgot about. I was looking back at her memoir, and she talks about the fact that she was worried about filling the shelves with enough books. I think partly it was a financial issue. She had to purchase the books to stock, especially at the very beginning. So I think she would look around at the bounty of books and how accessible they are to buy, and she would be amazed. And she would love how homey this is. There are all these lovely nooks in the children's room with, that make it so inviting for children to come and read books. I think she would love that. She tried to make Shakespeare and Company a homey kind of place.
Thank you, Carrie. We loved
Thank
having
you so
you here.
much.
Thank you so much for chatting with me.
Bye.
Bye-bye.